Yeah, have you seen have you
You're all beagles to me anyway.
have you seen this tweet
Wow, I've
about
not seen that. He's really, dude, Elon is edgy, man. I did not realize how edgy he was.
yeah, so I saw this and I just did very superficial research of what this is regarding. So Elon tweets this meme, "You're all beagles to me anyway, crimes against humanity," with Dr. Fauci, of course. And pretty much the context behind this is like apparently, I think it was the NIH or somebody like that Fauci was, overseeing trials of pretty much, there was a picture in the comments here about how, yeah, here's a picture. So they drug beagles and locked their heads in mesh cages filled with hundreds of infected sandflies. So as you can see here, the beagles are like laying on their sides. Their heads are just like enclosed in these containers with like hundreds of flies, just like kind of like buzzing around and like biting them. And apparently, like, it's just like it's not a good look.
Uh,
And a couple articles were, I mean, this is actually from PETA. PETA's been exposing NIH atrocities since 81, and a contracted beagle breeding factory is the latest one. So this was actually published way back in November 12th, 2021, and apparently last updated November 30th of 22. So you know, and just to kind of skim through this, PETA became the first to expose an atrocity funded by the NIH. Um, see the Silver Spring monkeys case below. Now, 40 years on, Anthony Fauci and the NIH and infectious diseases NIAID, which is a division of the NIH, have come under fire for reportedly funding tests in Tunisia in which experimenters drugged beagle puppies and locked their heads in cages filled with hungry infected sandflies. So I guess this is like a division or a lab that the NIH is funding essentially. And so yeah, I mean, obviously PETA's not going to be happy with this.
do we
And
know what the reason is for these types of tests? Because, like, I hope that they have a really good reason and there are no good alternatives, right? Because at the end of the day, like, if it's providing some really valuable research, maybe it's a price that, like, we kind of have to stomach. But I
yeah.
just, it seems so crazy that, like, that is necessary. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wild.
What do the viewers think? I mean, yeah, I mean if you're trying to get a scientific discovery and like the only way to do so is to like test this on like organisms, like hopefully they've thought of the most ethical way and cost efficient way to do this. You know what I mean? Hopefully, right? And apparently the Silver Spring monkeys thing happened. You know, uh, for 15 years, U of P experimenters cemented baboons' heads into metal devices and pummeled their heads with a hydraulic device to cause traumatic brain injuries. Um, you know,
Ugh.
and yeah, so and then there was this other, article about it. And again, this was back in November of 2021. And the question is, what's the real story on Fauci's involvement using beagle puppies for medical experiments? And then the full answer is, in the last week, we received dozens of emails from readers asking about this. Let's see here if we can find a good soundbite for you guys. Um, they spent more than $424,000 in beagle experiments. So they were spending a lot of money on this too,
That's
in
not
which
that much,
dogs were
right?
apparently bitten to death by these flies as well. So they died from this. And, you know, uh, Fauci funded 375K of beagle torture overseas too. Um, let's see here. Beaglegate. So I don't know why Elon's now tweeting about this. I think what the reason is because Fauci
Well,
has
these
come.
are the claims, by the way. I just want to make that clear. Fact
Yeah.
check did not. We haven't read through all of this. Fact check is going to go validate these claims or not invalidate them. So those were the claims, right?
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think what the reason for this all is that apparently Fauci is kind of going back into court to pretty much defend the whole thing about COVID. So I think Republicans brought him back into court to kind of like re-dig into the whole COVID thing. And so I think that's why this is like, why, he's posting this now. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
I think like this is kind of across like a bipartisan thing where people are kind of double taking all of the claims made during the COVID era that Fauci made, which, and like, now there's lots of people. I mean, there's lots of people that have been outspoken that they think this did not come from like a wet market. It was from the Wuhan lab. At least that's the claim. And that seems to be much more credible now, although I don't know if it's been confirmed or anything. And then there's also like the fact that Fauci was funding gain of function research, which Obama basically banned as a type of like a research practice. And then, all of these like internal emails were leaked at the NIH where, you know, people were basically just, openly talking over email about how they can like avoid FOIA requests. Do you know what a FOIA request is, Alex?
No.
Okay, FOIA is FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request. So basically, it's what allows journalists and anybody really to make a request to the government saying, "I want information about this stuff," and people have because of the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, we are allowed to request information about like non-confidential um, you know goings on in the federal government. And so basically there are all these emails in the NIH where people are like, oh yeah, like if you misspell this word and you put like a dollar sign instead of an S, people can't find what they're looking for in a FOIA request because a FOIA request is keyword based. So just, there's there's all of these emails where they're just openly talking about how to avoid FOIA requests so they can like hide stuff. And it's really slimy. Like if you read some of those emails, it's really slimy. And like notable people, like even, I don't know if you know who Peter Hotez is. He's been on the Joe Rogan a lot. And Joe Rogan's been kind of outspoken against him. And Peter Hotez is like in these emails talking about how to avoid FOIA requests and basically how to like keep things hidden from people. So keep information hidden. So there's like lots of really slimy stuff that was going on at the NIH, and Fauci's answering for a lot of it. And
Yeah. I
it seems
mean,
like they're stumping him. We could find one of those clips if you want, but apparently they've grilled him and made him look pretty dumb.
wow. I mean, like the thing is, like as a person in the medical field myself, like I'm very much for research, medicine, science, and also this kind of seems like just like kind of like memes made to just like make fun of him and attack him for like pretty much anything that people can find that he's done, quote, like ethically wrong in his like, however many decades of tenure as a, person in research, so, because obviously the right just wants to freaking blasphemize him and stuff. And, yeah, I mean, like, let's look at this isolated though and determine, like, was this something that was wrong ethically, probably, and I think, like I said, my guess is that this, these kind of attacks on him are just kind of like revived a little bit because he's brought into court recently just to talk about everything in COVID. So yeah, and it is unfortunate because apparently he said in court that he's received like death threats, his family's received death threats. So him being just like such this like publicly hated figure, especially hated by the right, it does suck, and they're gonna dig up whatever freaking dirt they can find in him. But I think that's kind of the context behind some of this. So
Yeah, and I mean, it makes me wonder too. Like, I mean, I don't know. Firstly, if you are making active efforts to like hide information, then like that's not good.
yeah,
Like you're doing something wrong, right? Um, like I think that is reprehensible. Like you should not be trying to like skirt around like the things that are used to like get people information. But it does make me wonder, like, was there good intention behind this, or was this purely like oh, I just like want to be the one to win like the Nobel Prize for having figured this thing out, and I'm gonna stop at any means necessary to do it? Is it like a self-aggrandizement thing, or is it actually like, no, like in order to get the like information we need or do the research that we need to do, we have to do this kind of research that's very, you know, kind of
ethically
ethically
borderline
challenging. So
with that. Yeah.
right.
So yeah,
So I don't know. It just makes me wonder. Like I would love to just kind of like sit down with that guy and talk to him. Maybe we get him on the pod.
yeah, we'll get him on the pod.
We'll get him one day.
He's like, "Sup, boys? What are we going to talk about?"
What are we going to talk about? Alex is wearing the tank.
Yeah. Hey man,
So,
so what's your like stance on this stuff?
yeah.
Anyways, I think that's it.
All right. Cool.
All right, guys, drummer time out. Peace.